there's a lot going on over here now. There's quite a bit going on. Yeah, this is recorded fairly recently compared to last episode, so I don't need to do as much mental effort to recall, but we can still recall a little bit here because quite a lot of interesting things happened last episode. Adrian has dropped the name Sophia in the past, and it's something that he didn't tell Sophia. And we've just confirmed that the Sophia in question is in fact on the other answer team, and will in fact die if we win. We've also confirmed that Evelyn's twin, Elizabeth, is on the other answer team. And there's some other dude on the other answer team. We learned a lot about Valerie. Valerie was in a terrible accident when someone tried to car bomb Emilia's parents. Valerie's mom was killed instantly. Valerie was horribly wounded. Had to go through some serious reconstructive surgery. Has several artificial body parts, and has her Neuralink to actually run those, control those body parts. Come to think of it, she has to, she got those when she was 7. That has to be a repeated operation to... I am not experienced in prosthetics whatsoever. And I imagine that has to be a consistent... especially with kids, it has to be consistent, repeated visits to doctors, just so your artificial prosthetics match up with your real growing limbs. Does that sentence make sense? Is that too much to say? I don't know why I'm getting in this digression right about now, but yeah. She... Dad's in the hospital. Dad Emilia was in the hospital. Mom Emilia was in the hospital. Emilia was in the hospital. She was grievously wounded as well. She was there to visit Dad, Mom. Visited Valerie. Visited Valerie repeatedly. That's how they sort of became friends, because Emilia was the only one who, showed genuine care here for her. And that stuck with Emilia. That stuck with Valerie. Valerie's not entirely sure if that stuck with Emilia in turn. But of course, they met again somewhere down the line. There's more to this story, which we're about to hear. Did you theorize in the comments section after last video? Oh, also Valerie tried to kill Adrian for being, Valerie's been on Adrian's ass repeatedly from the start for being wishy-washy, withdrawn, given the death gain scenario that we are in fact in. Adrian is actively lying about the full extent of what he knows, but he's telling partial truths. He's also guilt-tripping to try and make the others understand his point of view, which is a tactic I don't necessarily agree with, but... Alright, Valerie time. Time for these part 2 of Valerie's story. So when I said that we never met again, it wasn't actually a lie. We've only ever seen each other in that hospital. Years went by, life was shit, I went through some stuff. I don't want to talk about any of that again, it doesn't really matter either. Evelyn nods, as if to confirm that the details aren't relevant at the moment. I'd prefer to be a judge of that myself, but I guess I shouldn't insist, for now. Could never manage to fully forget her, though. However, How could I have? The very first entries in my log were filled with our conversations. Always had the urge to talk to her again, and at some point I just called the place her father was working at. That was the only idea I had. And yeah, managed to get a hold of him. Told him I felt the need to thank him and all for saving my life. Made some stuff up about how great I'd been since. He was happy to hear from me. At least he said he was. I didn't really care either way. All I wanted was to ask for a little Emilia's link ID. Give it to me right away, without even asking. Emilia would surely be happy to hear from me as well, he said. After a bit more acting like I was interested in his life, we hung up. That was the only time I ever spoke to him. If I had a properly functioning brain, I would have messaged right away, like, "Hi, I'm that kid from back then, want to chat?" But I didn't. Instead, I looked up her profile and read through her post history. Yikes. Well, to be fair. Sorry, how old were you at the time? Right, thanks for asking. Like, 14. Yeah, keep that in mind and ignore all the creepy and cringe stuff, okay? That's a bit more relatable. Okay. Wasn't just doing it to stalk her. Well, maybe I was. Really, I wanted to get in contact with her in a natural manner. Unnatural for me, but natural for her. I was trying to find out what kind of things she was into, what kind of community she was a part of, and then one day, join them. It was a total bust. I ended up in some weird place full of nerds who were really into mystery stuff. I didn't really know what to say. I never really cared about anything like that, so I mostly just lurked around. Did help me with learning more about what Emilia was doing there, however. What kind of mysteries she liked and all that. Well, she did also talk about movies. Books and games. What stood out for me was that she kept discussing a certain urban legend. I'm sure you can guess what I'm talking about. I nod. Read about it a bunch, tried to craft my own theories surrounding it, then rejoined with a new account. Username was... No. Wow, edgy much? Well, 14, what did I expect? Funny to imagine how things would have gone if she told us that her username was Novelty right at the very start. Could have backfired hard, so I guess it was a good idea to keep it hidden for that alone. Interesting, though. Emilia got all her info. Got her into all this in the first place. I'm almost starting to feel like all these things are connected after all. Emilia being here in a game that is based entirely on an urban legend that she was deeply interested in years ago, after being missing for 2 years to boot. That can't be a coincidence, can it? What kind of reason could she have had to look into it so much? Maybe... Hey, you listening? Oh. Oh shit. Much the weirdest for the community were pretty annoyed right away when they saw my name. Oh no, not another one, they wrote. Emilia, though, pinged me right away. And we sent messages back and forth, discussing our theories on what happened back in 71. Well, I already knew hers, but I could at least act interested. Eventually, when there's nothing left to say about the truth game, she DM'd me. Pretty much ignored the existence of the community from then on, and we just became friends. We talked about whatever came to mind. Ordinary things. Things we never told anyone IRL. She told me that she wanted to dye her hair. I told her that I wanted to get pierced. She told me how much she hated her father for never having been home. I told her how I wished mine wasn't home as much. She told me about some guy she met. Hey, are you listening? Yeah. Okay. Not sure whether she believes me, but she at least acts as if she does. Years went by and we kept exchanging messages. Cut off right before she possibly would have mentioned us. And we zoned out for it. Which is probably for the best, because that would have sent us on a spiral if she brought that up. I learned so much about her, and she so much about me. No matter how much time passed, however, I never once told her anything about who I am. The longer I waited, the less likely I was to ever change that. The less possible it became. I couldn't just tell her that I was the child from that hospital. I stalked her and lied to her in order to become her friend. And so I made just an empty variable. No, more than one. Never told her my name, my age, my gender, where I'm from. She knew so much about what I thought and felt, and yet so little about who I was. I often wondered how she saw me. What kind of image she had in her mind when thinking about me. The feeling regarding the value of online friendship. It is super valuable, but it does raise questions like that sometimes. What kind of voice she heard when reading my messages, if any? If she ever met me, would that image be shattered? Fuck, I can't believe it. Is that why you kept this a secret? Yeah. All the stuff I said about not wanting to reveal too much about Emilia was complete bullshit. I didn't care about protecting her privacy. All I cared about was myself. Hey! Pot, kettle, and Evelyn. All this time. The only thing I was worried about was Emilia learning anything about who I was, what I looked like, sounded like, acted like. Wanted to go back to the way things have always been. Wanted to remain nothing, and everything. Whatever she imagined me to be. That's what I wanted to keep alive the most. I see. That's all I could muster the courage to say. Evelyn slowly pats her back. My surprise? Valerie doesn't complain at all, just remaining silent. What made you change your mind? That's what I would have liked to ask, but honestly, I already know the answer, don't I? It's less what and more who. With every passing hour, we reveal more and more of our past, and Evelyn is definitely doing a great job at convincing us to, well, get along, work together, and all that. What is it that I need to hear to come clean as well? Fully, and not just act as if I do. Somewhere deep down, I already know the answer. Just can't quite reach it yet. Valerie gets up from her chair, taking a couple steps toward the wall of permeable plants. Now that I got all that out of the way, I still wonder whether it brings us any closer to solving this whole thing. Does it? Well, can I ask something? Do whatever you want. What about the time before her disappearance? Did she say anything that stood out? Or did she just stop messaging you without any prior indications? She turns toward me, leaning against the wall with plants glitching through her every now and then. I wish I could just quote our chat, but I still remember it roughly, our last convo. Yeah, even before that, she hadn't been as active as she used to be for a while. Figured she was just busy with her girl at that point. Didn't have much need for me anymore. Whatever. So then the last time she messaged me, it came as a bit of a surprise when she started to apologize for just that. Said stuff about how she was just really busy and kind of overwhelmed with life at the moment. She would explain it all once it settled down. Told her it was fine, of course it was. Wasn't mad or anything in the first place. She was extremely grateful, promising to take the time to catch up, but she was just going to take a break. All seemed really out of character for her. I didn't question it any further. I'm just happy to hear she seemingly cared about me that much. Didn't really understand why. In retrospect, I guess she must have already known that something would have happened to her. Or at least that it might. Whatever kept her so busy at the time. Did it have something to do with all this? All that digging into some strange urban legend. Was it more than simple curiosity? And after that, did you still try to message her? Obviously. A bunch of times. Didn't even get a reply. At first I didn't think much of it. She wanted to take a break, after all. If anything, I felt like an idiot for bothering her to begin with. Months gone by, though, I started to get worried. Thought about calling her father again, but I couldn't. After all, I'd never actually messaged her, despite asking for her ID. If I asked about her again, I would have to reveal that Noel and I were the same person all along. I had kept that fact a secret from her for years, for no proper reason at all. None that I could explain, anyhow. Does that mean you never knew for sure whether she had actually gone missing? That's right. I often wondered whether something happened to her. Or if her last words were just her twisted way of cutting me off with minimal guilt. I only got the confirmation today. She had gone missing around the time she stopped replying. In a way, I was glad to hear it. God, I'm disgusting. At least it's not just me. Quietly remained like this for a while. Honestly, I forgot whatever else I wanted to ask. Maybe I should leave it at that anyway. She said enough for now. Even Emilia seems to have already known that she might disappear, at least for a while. Did she sense that she was in danger? Was there something else that I'm still missing? Another option? Anyway, I think that's all I got for now. She looks over at Evelyn. You want to try the thing we discussed earlier? Oh, of course. Grumpy leaves the table, heading toward the living room. I'll return once I'm done, all right? Right. And with that, she's gone. Oh, great. What was that all about? I'll explain that once it matters, if it does. Okay. For now, She pauses. Fuck. So, sorry. Huh? For choking you? Oh, right. Yeah. Evelyn told me to say that. Yeah, I thought so. Ah, okay. You don't seem all that surprised. It's fine either way. Really, you didn't need to say that, but yeah. Well, now I did. So, was that all? What, not good enough for you? No, I just meant, is that all you wanted? Oh, I guess. Okay, cool. And so we stand around, instead of just sitting at the table next to us. I guess we already spent quite a lot of time sitting today, so it's alright. Normally I would use this opportunity to contemplate what she's thinking about right now. What the true intentions behind her half-assed apology could have been. There's not really any reason left to do so. After all, I feel like I already understand. Instead, I'll try and return the favor. Oh, right, thanks. Have a glass of water. What? Earlier when Oliver asked whether anyone wanted some water. Oh, that. Yeah. Weird thing to bring up. Well, whatever. It's fine. Thanks. Thanks? For thanking me, I guess. They're learning. They are doing their best. Adrian would never admit that it would have been okay if she had just finished the job. Words themselves barely mattered, and yet she understood, I think. As if to prove that, just that, she continues. Did you really want to sacrifice yourself? I guess so. You sure? I think so? Doesn't sound all that sure to me. Does she know? Did she know the entire time? If so, why hasn't she said anything before? Said that you would assume that Sophie might be on the other team from the very start. That's why you didn't even try to win, right? Pretty much, yeah. For someone who wasn't even trying, you were pretty nitpicky when it came to inconsistencies you noticed. Yeah, I made fun of all your theories, but it sure didn't seem like you weren't trying to figure stuff out. Anything that could help us with understanding our situation. You never ever told us about Sophie actually being here. You never tried to sabotage us or stop us from making progress. Still tried to push me into revealing as much as possible. The only thing you ever did was try to divert our attention. Everyone focus on what I know and make sure that nobody was on to you. As long as it didn't have anything to do with you or what you knew about Emilia, it was all fair game. You never really wanted us to lose. But talk about sacrificing yourself for Sophie was just an excuse, wasn't it? Way to make yourself feel like your actions aren't as selfish as they seem. Yeah, she's reading us. She's clean reading us. You never actually wanted to die, and... Swallow. She leaves her wall behind, slowly stepping closer and closer toward me. You're still hiding something, aren't you? I think you're reading too much into this. I just didn't want to be responsible for your death to appear useless. You'd hate me, to raise suspicion. Speaking the truth, and yet, you're right as well. Valerie is standing right in front of me, her gaze focused on my expression, trying to ascertain the veracity of my words. I don't know what my face looks like in this moment, but I doubt it's doing a particularly good job at masking what's behind. And again, it probably doesn't matter all that much anyways. I'm convinced that she has pretty much figured me out at this point. If I never truly revealed how I feel, she has been reading my every action like an open book. Why am I still trying to hide anything from her? Stubbornness? Suddenly, though, she backs off. The door swings open as if to prevent further scrutiny. My savior briefly steps in. Valerie turns her head toward her. So, your theory was correct. I found some rather interesting things that I would like the two of you to take a look at. Sure? Evelyn nods and turns around. Valerie follows suit, not even sparing me another glance. Wonder if it's to do with the filing cabinet. The desk drawer. Emilia, I don't know why this is just clicking now, but Emilia opened the desk drawer when she was alone. When the others came back, they couldn't reopen the desk drawer. It's just a sort of thing that someone has to be alone in there to open it. Valerie followed suit, and I've been sparing another glance. I still don't have a clue what this is all about, but I guess I'll find out soon. Did they really manage to figure something out? The one way to find out. Entering the living room, I see them once again standing in front of the file cabinet we weren't able to open before. They found a way to do just that? Based on the fact that Valerie is once again pulling at one of the handles without anything happening, it wouldn't seem so. Evelyn looks at me and begins to explain. All right. You are still out of the loop, Adrian, isn't that so? I nod. When Valerie and I had our conversation in the kitchen, she proposed an idea as to why we might not have been able to open any of these drawers. After all, Oliver mentioned that Emilia had apparently managed to open the one in their respective living room, but only before Oliver and Nathan had returned to see for themselves. Oliver had suspected that she might have only imagined it or something to that effect. Frankly, I thought that explanation was kind of shit. Instead, I thought about how the lock in this thing might work. And then I remembered what we said about that door earlier, the exit. That it probably checks for the number of nearby Neuralink signals? Yeah, I thought this one might work the same way. It might be locked as long as there are too many people nearby. And she was right. To demonstrate, she once again pulls on one of the handles. Nothing happens. Wow. Just like before, it doesn't open. Meanwhile, as we waited in the kitchen, I was finally able to take a look at what's inside. She takes a step back and points at the table on which a bunch of documents have been placed. I only took a brief look through its contents and took out anything that appeared at least somewhat relevant. But now this seems like a decent enough starting point. Valerie picks up a piece of paper right away, starting to read without a moment of hesitation. I, on the other hand, simply stand in front of the table, letting my eyes hover over the text in front of me. Most of them are largely redacted, only bits and pieces remaining readable. I try to scour them for some kind of hint, but I can barely process any of it. Oh, what they have in common is their age. They all appear to be from around the time when the original experiment had supposedly taken place. According to the story Valerie told us, 2071, 2070, some are even older. Were probably kept here this entire time. Did Noel want us to find them? Did he not even know they were here in the first place? What I can tell, they all seem to describe the details of that experiment. Not knowing how much about parapsychology, I don't really get any of it. I can really guess what some of the terms mean. Minimum delay, abstract transfer, connector, generative simulation, neurological override. Barely having any sort of context doesn't help. I continue to stare at the table. Valerie has apparently already finished going over the document she first grabbed, promptly switching it for another one. At that moment, I noticed a text that was mostly covered by the one she just picked up. One that seemed to be readable for the most part. I grab it. Hopefully this will make any sort of sense. Are they talking while they're at it? Well, they are talking about it. Hey Lynn, got a second? Of course, several. What's this minimum delay thing about? It's being mentioned a bunch. Ah, minimum, okay. So we'll have to check back for some extra lore. The abstract transfer experiment is scheduled to start on March 17th, 2071. Participants will gather at the Parapsychology Research Center of New Berlin before being transferred to the newly established underground test site. Sorry about that. In addition to the scientists involved, representatives from the following members of the United Corporations of Europe, US, supervise the event on site. Neuralink, Nanolog, and Art Arms arrive at the test site one day prior to the experiment. Once the experiment commences, no one will be allowed to enter or leave the structure for the entire duration of the event. All forms of communication or data exchange will be prohibited as well. The exact duration is not set in stone and expected to last no longer than 2 weeks. The list of supervisors has not been confirmed yet, however the following 6 test subjects have agreed to participate. They are unaware of any further details beyond the general relation of the study to our current predicament. Matches what Valerie told us earlier. Our current predicament, huh? Must be that nil thing. Alright, minimum delay thing. Delay refers to the time it takes for data to be exchanged between the brain and Neuralink. Accessing stored files might seem to be instant process, but is still different from real knowledge. If you want to check something on your log, you still need to actively decide to do so, don't you? You don't just remember details from previous conversations without doing so. Right, but stuff that happens with things we actually know. Memories can just pop up when you least expect them to. Exactly. Now, the minimum delay is the lowest amount of time necessary for the human brain to be able to differentiate between the two. Information it possesses by itself and data stored on the Neuralink. It was decided that Neuralink should not, under normal circumstances, be able to pass that threshold. Should not be able to pass that threshold. Users should always be able to separate their own ideas from stored files. Sounds like one of the goals of this experiment was test what would happen if you remove that delay, huh? It seems that way, yes. Like at that point, Neuralink completely replaces normal memory processing then, right? Or at least Neuralink becomes indistinguishable from normal memory processing. That's kind of terrifying. And everything? Puts down the document she was holding, a frustrated expression covering her face. I don't know how helpful this is, but at least it's readable. Pretty much confirms what you told us about earlier, that this really is the test site from 71. In other words, she snatched it from my hand and starts to read. Watch her eyes moving swiftly across the page. Given the fact that the text doesn't cover much beyond what she had already told us, I don't expect to find much of a reaction within them. All of a sudden, however, they widened with surprise. What the actual... Huh? There's something I missed. The names? What is it? Have you noticed anything? Did you not see the names? The names? Oh, right. There was a list of names at the bottom of the page. Nope. Participants of the original experiment. If I can reply with anything else, she shoves it straight into my face. 6 names, 6 people I never heard of before. If I notice a familiar last name. Not once, but twice. Neiman. Irene Neiman and Rena E. Neiman. Who are they? Oh my, Neiman. Siblings or family. Joseph is the husband. Emilia. Unless Rena E. with his middle name Emilia. Evelyn, who was apparently snuck up behind me, is peeking over my shoulder to inspect the list of names herself. So they were involved in what previously happened in this very facility. I never would have guessed. This can't be a simple coincidence, can it? No, definitely not. She lowers her hand and turns away. Don't know about Irene, but Rena. That was the name of her mother. Her mother? But if this experiment was conducted in 2071, that means she must have been a mere child at that point. Guess so. Think it would roughly fit. Maybe Irene was her mother then. So Emilia's grandmother. That seems plausible. Yeah. It wasn't clear before, it was more than clear now. None of this is a coincidence. So is that why? Yeah, the next round is about to begin. Please prepare to gather in the hall at your earliest convenience. Oh, before I get the chance to discuss the common thread connecting all these events, a familiar voice rings out, interrupting me mid-sentence. It's the same monotonous voice we last heard when Valerie tried to exit the hall with Oliver. With that, we stand there, dumbfounded. Except for Valerie, who makes her way toward the door without delay. What is it? You're not coming? Oh, just, is that announcement new? Is something about to happen? Oh, the two of you haven't heard it before, huh? The two of you haven't heard that before, huh? No, we have not. Are you implying you have? Yeah, the same one was playing right at the start when I had locked myself in the bathroom. Guess you can't hear it from the hall, because you're right where you need to be. It plays through the rest of the rooms to summon you there, I guess. Makes sense. Don't really have a reason to. Now that I think about it, it's true. Whenever Knowles appeared to give one of his speeches, we were already in the hall by chance. Makes sense that he wouldn't want us to miss out on them. So, you want to stand around all day? Oh no, of course not. Let's return to the hall. I nod. One after the other, we head through the door. Feels strange how quickly we went from what's most likely been our biggest discovery yet to quietly standing next to one another once more. I mean, sure, at this point, might as well wait a couple more minutes and tell Oliver about it too. But will we? Valerie looks like she's more than busy enough to just trying to put all the pieces together in her head. Meanwhile, I'm still unsure about what the hell I even want in the first place. Do I want to solve this? To find the truth? And once I do, will I finally tell them everything I know? Usual rumbling in the elevator returns. I wonder. How much could he still have left to tell us? Haven't we been over all the rules at this point? There he is, standing on his little stage once more. As per usual, he's not granting anyone a single glance, only beginning to speak in the most monotonous of voices, rarely ever fitting the words it produces. So this can't be Joseph Neiman. This can't be Emilia's father. As Valerie would have... Because Valerie would have recognized him by now. Hello, everyone. I hope you've been doing well these past 3 hours. Well, I said the same last time. But I hope you don't mind me repeating myself. I already know how well you've been doing. I'm glad to see that each team has, in their own way, managed to make some progress. I still wonder what it is that you're even trying to find, but do not worry. You don't necessarily need to know that. What you need to know is that you're getting closer. And hearing that might not mean awfully much to you. So instead, how about I give you a bit of a helping hand? Not a monster, after all. You've already noticed the locked door in each of your halls, right? Not the exit, the other one. Of course you have. I'd be worried to help you had you not. How about granting you access to the room that lies beyond it? Oh, he says that the scanner on said door turns green. Finally. How is it locked in the first place? Is whatever we find in there actually going to help us? If so, maybe he just wanted us to think for ourselves for a while before starting to straight up hand out hints. If that is the case, then this is actually going to be as significant as he made it seem. And this might be the turning point for this whole ordeal. I'll have to, once and for all, make up my mind. After all, I have no way of knowing what the other team is up to. Behind me, the elevator has already made its way back into the ground, and all is gone. Despite that, Valerie is still staring at the spot from which he had repeatedly addressed us. What's wrong? I wonder whether... I wasn't really thinking much of it last time, since that was the first time I'd seen it myself. The way he had positioned himself there was the exact same, wasn't it? I mean, I guess so. Same for his first speech, the one I didn't get to see? Yeah? What exactly do you mean? The way he was just rigidly standing there, staring straight at the wall that's separating us from the question team, never bothering to look at either of us. Yeah, true. Perhaps the scripts for his speeches are being displayed upon that wall. Might just be reading them out loud to us. What kind of idea is that? That was all, he'd just read it from his Neuralink, wouldn't he? To be fair, we don't really know whether he has one himself, do we? I guess it's pretty likely he does. Just saying, we shouldn't assume it as a fact. Aside from that, I agreed, though. Seems far-fetched. Why would he even need a script in the first place? Yeah, like not like he ever really had all that much to say. I don't really see the point in him closely following some pre-written text. Simply nod. Honestly, the entire concept of him showing up for these speeches is kind of weird in and of itself. But again, there might not be any deeper reason to it at all. We're thinking it may just be a waste of time. In this case, however, it was also an effective way to kill some time. Before we know it, the large metal door slides open, and Oliver appears before us. Last time his face wore a frustrated expression, even when we had heard from Noel moments before. This time he looked just as troubled, despite the unusually good news we had just received. You alright? What a long face. Oh, it's nothing, don't worry about it. It's had a bit of a quarrel over in the other hall. Face instantly lights up, but he's clearly still bothered by whatever went down beyond that door. Is that so? That is quite troubling to hear. Well, it was to be expected. After all, Nathan turned out to be our enemy in a way. Yeah, now that he knows, it makes sense for them to no longer trust each other. Or work together. Yeah, that's right. Nodded agreement before backtracking ever so slightly. Although I kinda got myself to blame for him no longer trusting me. What do you mean? Did you do anything that would warrant distrust? He sighs. When I came back, Nathan didn't actually mind that much. Of course, he was aware of what Noel told us, but he still thought it would be the best course of action to combine our efforts. He said, well, something about how he didn't see any of us as enemies. The real enemy was Noel, he said. I mean, he's right. Still didn't expect him to feel that way. Sounds like things were off to a good start. But then how'd you mess it up? Well, I said I didn't have much to share. But y'all didn't tell me much of importance. Figured I was probably just being careful and thought it was just a nice gesture if the two of them simply started with their reports. Maybe that'd break the ice. Nathan shared some things he heard over in that other team. Emilia brought up a couple of details she remembered. And when it was my turn, I kept quiet. Huh. Guess you're a man of your word at least, huh? I guess so. Assuming he's speaking the truth. Guess we'll never know for sure what's really going on in the other halls. What you're saying, however, is that Nathan and Emilia have shared some additional details with you, have they not? Would you like to tell us about those? All right, of course. Clears his throat. Emilia went first. Mentioned a couple things she's remembered about her family, what happened to her mother, how she's living at her father's. Which lined up with what we already know. Nothing really stood out. Glanced over at Valerie. Didn't mention that, of course, don't worry. Yeah, go on. That was Nathan's turn. Told us that, surprise, Sophie recognized the name Adrian. That she brought up being friends with him and that he was the one to come along to visit the Neuralink Center. No stuff like that. I guess you had that already figured out as well. I nod reluctantly. Yes, that's part of what we discussed earlier. Perfect, because I told them that I already knew that. I know, I said I'd keep quiet, but come on, they already figured it out anyways. Yeah, you're right, it's fine. I'd have done the same. In fact, that's pretty much exactly why I decided to finally reveal it in the first place, because they all called you out on it. It was to our advantage, too. We agreed that it wasn't much of a sign of trust from his side. That'd be something I'd have obviously already known. We didn't need to be aware that it wasn't quite as obvious with how difficult it was to deal with a bunch of you. No offense. Well, maybe a little bit. So does that mean he ended up telling you something else instead? Right, about something Sophie had noticed over in their hall. Strange drawing on one of their walls, hidden behind that AR stuff. She hadn't thought much of it when she drew it on a piece of paper to share it with Eric. Apparently, he knew what it was. Ooh. Anamesia. Some cult symbol. A collection of Anamesia or something. Remembering of things from a previous existence. Yeah, remember we discussed that, I think, in part 1. Anamesia. Remembering of things from a supposed previous existence, so like past life recollection, which in this instance could mean, realistically, in the course of this universe, it could mean something akin to, if you're eliminating the delay that separates Neuralink recall from actual brain memory recall. Like, there's a non-zero chance that, think about things. Jesus. That they might be trying to use recall to create an Emilia that fully recalls the past life of the real Emilia. Maybe this is a whole operation of the collection of Anamnesia. Maybe they operated the past game in 71. A cult. Are you seriously telling me that something like that is behind all this? Might explain the craziness of this entire situation, but it just seems so absurd. Would some cult one would run forth from Emilia? What does any of that have to do with us? Might just be a coincidence. No use in overthinking it, right? You didn't see anything like that, did you? Nope, nothing at all. Figures. Do you think that they are the ones behind all this? Unless you think it's still too early to judge. Nathan said the other answer team was pretty convinced of it. I have no idea. Never heard of those guys before. Didn't even know cults were still a thing. Before that, we discussed that any further. Was that all then? Ah, right. Nathan asked me to share something from my team, but I refused. Not sure it was the smartest course of action, but it felt like the right thing to do, you know? Yeah, you did fine. Honestly, who knows whether that Nathan dude was actually being sincere? Or just sharing info to get you to spill. If he had made the whole thing about the cult symbol up on the spot after his first attempt at proving his trust failed. Sure, he's right. Noel's our real enemy. It doesn't change the fact that gathering info for our team's going to decide about life and death. As long as that's true, there's no way to actually trust a single word Nathan says. Earlier, I thought we should trust anything that we heard from the QT. We didn't have a choice anyway, as long as we want to have any sort of chance at winning this thing. I'd argue that the situation has now changed, that we have sufficient reason to doubt Nathan's word. It might be better to think twice about whatever we hear from him. Oliver stands still for a while, processing Valerie's argument. He nods. Yeah, guess you're right. Well then, you want me to continue keeping my mouth shut? I honestly think it doesn't really matter anymore. Who knows whether we'll even live long enough to see the next round? Come on, don't talk like that. We know it's true. We've barely managed to make any progress this entire time. But who knows how the other team has been doing? Then I'm not done talking. And yet she hesitates. Not like she ever worried about Nathan getting some sort of hint out of her story. That was never why she kept quiet about it to begin with. I'm not saying that I'm giving up. I'm just saying that this game suddenly ending without any kind of warning is getting more and more realistic the longer we wait. So this might be the last chance to tell her. Think, whether we still get out of here or not, I want her to remember. No, I think I want her to know the whole truth. The truth? Word of that carries a lot of weight in our situation, and so must Valerie's decision to finally reveal the secret she's kept to herself all this time. Yeah, I told these two while you were gone. Huh. Guess I don't have a choice now. Hey, I interrupt her mid-sentence. One of the scariest feats imaginable, at least from where I stand. Sorry, but, what about that door over there? We all turn around, our eyes fixed on the previously read scanner. Ah, right, that's what Noel was just talking about, huh? I didn't want to interrupt you or anything, but I just thought maybe we should see what's behind that first, and then discuss anything else, you know? Yeah, it's fine, you're right. We still got time. I can hold off from repeating my backstory a third time, at least for a bit. If anything, she's probably relieved. She might also just be used to it at this point. I don't know. Can't relate. Can't relate. She's revealed her backstory 3 times. I've done it maybe 0.5 times. That is true. We should probably see what that door has in store for us before deciding how we proceed. Yeah. Quickly move closer and closer toward the door, then stand still, waiting for someone to make the first move. Been waiting for this. Yet now that we're finally about to open it, we feel hesitant. Or at least I do. Reluctant, nervous, and anxious. I'm feeling things that I can't quite put into words. Will this door answer any of our lingering questions? Will it give us even more? Probably both. Valerie takes another step forward, reaching out towards the scanner. I'll, just press it then, alright? I nod, before noticing that she can't see me, standing behind her back. Of course, whenever you're ready. Her hand meets the green surface. Without further delay, the door slides open like the rest, but behind it hides a room unlike any other we've seen so far. One that does not seem to hide its true colors behind augmented reality. One that, despite that, seems the least real out of all of them. What? The hell is all this? Yeah. Sure looks scary. Anyone in these? Leans over one of the metal coffins, glancing at that small window in it. Oh, just, water. There better not be. Would have been a scary thought to find anyone hiding in there. Despite that, he continues to check the remaining boxes, simply nodding his head. Yep, that box sure is a box. Evelyn, on the other hand, takes a close look at the cables and tubes connected to them. She might know what these are. This Suppose I have an idea of what these pods could be, although I've never seen the specific model myself. Pod? Model? Well, yes, it makes sense after all. From what we have deduced so far, this place seems to be rather old. In other words, there must be some sort of... These must be some of the first prototypes of the machine I have in mind. Yeah, sure, I got that, but, like, what is it a model of? What are they? I'm not quite sure yet, but these might be what I've told you about earlier. Earlier? You mean... When we talked about whether it would be possible to make someone's memories disappear via accessing their Neuralink data, I said it wasn't. Not without specific equipment. So, these are what you mean? They might be. As I said, I can't say for sure. It would make sense, though. There are 3 of these pods here. The other team probably has all the same... The other teams probably have the same room, so it should add up nicely, 1 pod per person. We've all been inside one of these. Well, what good would putting me in one of those do, eh? Really didn't get rid of any of my memories. I'm sure Noel was aware that I don't have a Neuralink, wasn't he? Same with Sophie. If there's 3 pods over in the other answer team, ATB, Sophie doesn't have a Neuralink. So what happened with her? So Evelyn starts at the terminal next to the set of pods, investigating its interface, clicking her way through a couple of menus for a while. She nods. It is just like I suspected. This seems to be an early prototype of the connector, which can be used to establish a direct connection between the brain and Neuralink. Wait, but, I mean, I don't know much about all that, but aren't they always connected? What exactly do y'all need that machine for? Yes, of course, but usually there's a certain minimum delay between accessing and retrieving data. That can be bypassed using this machine. And the exact theory behind it is much more complicated, of course, so let's put it this way. Resting inside one of these pods, data can be transmitted directly to the user's brain. To the user's brain. Through this, they can, for example, review parts of their log in a fashion that is much more akin to remembering those events, than simply reading through them. This process is called direct transfer. Now that I think about it. When I first woke up at the start of all this, I think I was dreaming about Emilia. I thought it was a dream. It would have been. Inside my head, something clicks. It was the same for me. Of course, that wasn't a coincidence. It almost felt like something kind of premonition of what's to come. At the end, it was just Noel priming our brains. Did any of you experience something like that? Well, I obviously didn't. Me neither, I'm sorry to say. I hesitantly shake my head. I don't think so. Oh, it makes sense, right? Noel wanted to make sure that you remembered Emilia before this even started, to make sure that things go smoothly, I guess. Yes, that would explain it. There must not have been any relevant data to show us. I think the most curious thing about the words that Adrian dreamed of was, like, assuming it was all dialogue remembered from Emilia. There's a whole lot of excuse me, can I sit here? Can I sit here? Can I sit here? Emilia, clearly very outgoing and personable. Clearly, Adrian is not. So Adrian engaged in the conversation, or I should say Emilia, like, was the one to reach out and start that connection, that friendship, sort of. Right. Valerie looks in my general direction. Yeah, sure, I guess, and rolls her eyes. She once again knows that we're lying to her. Anyway, the same thing has been used to make us forget about how we ended up here, right? Most likely, yes. Adrian once again telling a very foolish lie. And that was very distinctly not in our log. So wait, this machine can be used to both make us remember and forget things. Doesn't this imply the same process could also be used to implant fake memories into our heads? We've all been in one of these. How can we even know which of our memories are real and which are fake? Is our entire basis for what truth is just been shattered? Can we even figure out who Emilia is? Did Valerie and I really know Emilia? Or were those memories we dreamt of just what Noel wanted us to think of as our past? Does Emilia even exist? Any of the things that between us ever happened? Am I? You alright there? Yeah, sure, I guess. Anyway, the same thing has been used to make us forget about how we ended up here, right? Most likely, yes. Just to get this straight, that couldn't have done anything to my memories, could it? No. Only to those that were previously stored in the logs of a neuralink. The procedure is known as neurological overwrite, referring to directly removing segments from the log. It only impact memories linked to available log entries. That means that those linked to entries that were previously deleted cannot be affected. Why is that, though? What do those have to do with one another? Like, how can removing some text entries lead to actual memory loss? Simply put, well, as we discussed earlier, thoughts and feelings are no longer stored on the neuralink. Each entry is linked to the associated neural circuits. Only through that link can the correct set of memories be targeted. That's kind of terrifying, actually. Like the Neuralink stores brain pointers, directing the brain to the specific part of your memory where the said memory is stored. So if you fuck with your Neuralink, you can damage your brain and delete memories. That's terrifying. I hate that. Yeah, I understood about half of that, but it makes sense. Well, I do recall pretty much everything by now. Yeah, you were probably just drugged or something. A bit mushy in the head. Speaking of mushy, you alright there? Huh? Suddenly I noticed everyone looking at me with concerned expressions. You look somewhat pale. Are you not feeling well, perhaps? Oh, it's just... God, I'm so stupid. It's fine. I do have one more question about all this. What is it? Could this machine also be used to implant fake memories into whoever is inside one of those pods? Goodness, no, nothing like that. In seconds, all my worries have been dispelled. At least not directly. And they're back. Wait, what? What about indirectly, then? Evelyn sighs, realizing that she shouldn't have brought it up, and that she will now be stuck with all the exposition dump duty for a little while longer, such as the duty of a Neuralink employee. To procedures which I suspect to be relevant to our situation are the neurological overwrite and the direct transfer. Neurological overwrite to remove memories, direct transfer to recall them. In both cases, however, the memories in question need to already be part of the user's log data. The neurological overwrite, a specific time frame is submitted for removal. Larger time frames can lead to complications with the subject's psyche, however, so it is usually limited to a couple of days at most. Wait, what the heck is something like that even used for in the first place? There are a selection of medical use cases, mostly related to trauma management. I never thought about it much, but I guess it makes sense. Still seems like a questionable way to deal with that sort of thing, but like I'm an expert. I see. Direct transfer used to have someone dive back into their previous log entries. It's used for similar purposes, and it is also mostly identical in its functionality. A time frame is submitted, and the related files are transmitted to the subject's brain. In this case, there are no issues with entering a time frame of long duration, however. Depending on the amount of available data, the user will subconsciously select the most relevant memories. For specific transfer, additional keywords can also be entered. In your case, Valerie, it is likely that Noel focused on memories related to Emilia. Yeah, makes sense. As you can see, both of these procedures operate only with previously recorded sets of data. There is no way to, for example, submit fake entries for a data transfer. That's because every entry is automatically encoded in a way that only allows the original user to read it. So it's the other way around as well, right? Each Neuralink can only access memory data that was generated by it in the first place. Or something. That's the gist of it, yes. So really, you don't need to worry, Adrian. Your memories haven't been tampered with, apart from the day of our abduction being overwritten. Well, who knows? Still means Noel could have deleted some earlier entries as well, for whatever reason. They smile and nod anyway. though she still hasn't come around to the actual question. So what about indirectly manipulating our memories, or whatever you mean by that? Yes, of course. While the two procedures I just described are the most common uses for the connector, there are others as well. One of those is called abstract transfer. As the name suggests, it is used to transfer abstract ideas, feelings, and thoughts. They aren't fully fledged memories by themselves, but connect to already existing ones instead. Oh no. Transferred data is, in this case, similar in structure to what Valerie has mentioned earlier, about how nanologs used to store emotional data on top of the conversation logs. So that data doesn't have to stem from the person it's being transferred to, right? Correct. However, as I have explained, it cannot be used to insert false memories, only to alter feelings connected to them. I see. That means Emilia is real. That's cool. Probably. By the way, I'm beginning to grasp what these pods are for. Do I understand how they work? Fuck no. What the hell do any of these words mean? I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what they can be used for. Really, that's probably much more relevant anyways. Oliver, on the other hand, seems to have given up a while ago. So, that's great and all, but I didn't know I'll open this whole thing up. Again, does any of this actually get us anywhere? Certainly nice to know what the hell happened to our memories. I guess so. Well, aside from that, clicking sounds come from the terminal, which everyone's now typing away at. There are two sets of data stored on this setup. One belonging to Valerie, the other to Adrian. What are you getting at? I suspect those to be the reason why Noel opened this room for us. Oh boy. Well, Adrian, time to stop telling dumb lies. Although you're just doing it out of pure stubbornness. Knowing that Valerie is already seeing through you. Like the ones that are supposed to help you remember something that could potentially help us going forward. Memories of Emilia. Those really make a difference. Makes sense, then. That's why I just data those two, eh? So, like, do you want us to get into these things? I am only suggesting that it would be a possibility. I can hardly judge how much it would truly benefit us, of course. Are you sure these things are safe, though? Like, could this be some kind of trap by Null? I'm certain that's not the case. I've been running a couple of tests on it while we were talking. The software itself does not appear to be manipulated in any way. So also don't see much reason to suspect this of being a trap. Seems like we were already in these pods anyway. Noel wants to do anything crazy to our brain, he could have done that by now. But he kinda did. However, I do not want to force you into compliance either way. It was merely an idea. Do I want to relive those memories? Not like I never read through those entries. This might be different. This might truly take me back. I shudder thinking back to how I felt when I first woke up. Disgusting feeling. Having her words haunt me once more. Well, I don't know about you, but it sounds like an alright idea to me. Do you have any alternatives anyway? I mean, we still have had some things to discuss with you, like about those documents and stuff. You haven't even seen those. Yeah, and I still gotta tell you about how I've known Emilia. Not like you can tell her about it otherwise. She's just as hesitant as I am, huh? Just like me, she refuses to outright say it. Don't worry about that. Once we've set everything up, I can tell all of her about all that. With time being of the essence, splitting up might be more efficient, wouldn't you say? Yeah, I agree. Definitely sounds like the best course of action to me. Oh boy. The two most mentally well of us versus the two most mentally unwell. Valerie and Adrian versus Oliver and Evelyn. Of course they'd agree on that. I mean, they're right. I And also, they aren't the ones that are about to enter one of those things. Ugh. I shrug. Guess so. Valerie seems somewhat taken aback by my decision. After a while, she simply sighs. Well, I'll take that as a yes. All right, Evelyn, can I do anything to help? No, I don't think so. Just give me a couple of seconds so I can set everything up. For a couple of seconds, her fingers dance across the keyboard in front of her, then stop. 2 of the pods light up. She hasn't exaggerated. She only needed those seconds. They're ready. Valerie, please enter the one right next to me. Adrian, the other one is set up for you. Simply lift the lid. It should not be as heavy as it looks. I nod, then walk toward the pod in the middle of the room. Leaning forward ever so slightly, I grab a hold of the lid and slowly pull it upwards. She was right. It's not as heavy as it looks. Like Oliver mentioned, the inside is filled with water, despite not being particularly deep. I wonder. So we're just going into the water? Just like that? Correct. What's the hold up? Worried about your shoes getting wet? You can take those off if you like. If you come to visit one of our facilities, you would generally undress before entering one of those pods, of course. I simply assumed that neither of you would prefer that in this situation. Yeah, nah, I'm all right. I nod. Without any further thoughts, I simply step inside. One foot, then the other. Sit down. Lay down. Oliver, would you please close the lids? Sure thing. I hear his footsteps coming closer, then stop. Well, don't mind if I do. And does as he was asked. A couple seconds, I hear the same sound coming from the pod next to mine. Are the 2 of you comfortable? Yeah. Honestly, feels better than I thought. Pod's floor is slightly padded. The water pleasantly warm. Can't complain. Most comfortable I've been all day. But in a way, it brings back unpleasant memories. Somewhere deep down, I remember this feeling from before I woke up. Memories of Emilia flooding my mind, and they're about to return once more. Emilia. She'd been looking around this strange room as well. She's also lying inside one of these pods, about to dive into her past. Their past. Our past. I wonder. Everything is set up here. Are the 2 of you ready to begin? Am I? Sure. I guess so. Yeah. Good. Please, just close your eyes and relax. One step ahead of you. After a while, you will slowly drift off to sleep. Don't worry about anything. I'll make sure to wake you up once you're done. All right. And then, no more voices. Silence. Just lie here, motionless, wondering whether I'm doing anything wrong. Maybe I just suck at falling asleep. And after a while, everything starts to feel increasingly heavy. I couldn't move even if I tried. I didn't try. I didn't have a reason to. Honestly, maybe it'd be nice if everything could stay this way. Just peacefully stay here. The other team solves all this and wins the game. Then if I'm lucky, I never have to wake up again. See? It's just a random divergence, but with Adrian, his matter, I feel like, is in the vein of, I'm not actively contemplating suicide. But if it just so happened that death came for him and got him, and he just could passively stop existing, he'd be alright with that. He wouldn't fight it if death came for him. He's not actively seeking the game and the game over. He is, in fact, simply alright with things ending, if that's how the dice roll. Oh, hey. Ooh. We're getting a group of people and the like. We're actually going to save here, and when we come back, we will dive through these memories. Something's going to happen near the end here. Just get that feeling already. Something's going to happen. We'll find out next time. Until then.